Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vega Goose, and today we're going to be talking about Fallout 76, the latest release from Bethesda Studios. I've noticed a lot of people online, they seem to roam on both sides. You have the God Defenders, who are already out there making videos, telling people how everything's fine, everything's going to be great, the game's going to be wonderful. The thing I think that irks me the most about these videos is not so much that they defend the game, but that they tell people that if you're complaining about it, that you're incorrect. And quite frankly, at this point, we don't know anything about the game one way or the other. These channels aren't necessarily doing anything wrong. They've made it to where if you disagree with Fallout 76 on any level, you're somehow the enemy. Now, just as bad from the other side of the blind hatred. The people who have decided that they hate this game and they're going to hate on every single person who posts about it positively. Now, that's not really that helpful either. It's basically the same thing, but from the other side. It's the old argument of the fanboy versus the blind hater. With Fallout in particular, I think the reason that it's gotten so bad is because Fallout is one of those things that you either love it or you hate it, and that's been a thing since it first came out back in the 90s. I've never seen a Fallout discussion that didn't at some point delve down to either loving it or hating it, and 76 will be no different, I have no doubt. But all I'm going to tell you right now is we haven't even seen the beta yet. So if you're blindly defending this game or blindly hating this game, then you're both in the same boat, and it's a boat that's going to sink. Now, the one thing that the hating side has brought up that I will address here is the Save Player One campaign Bethesda launched a few years ago. And yes, it is somewhat ironic that since then they've taken their two biggest franchises, that would be the Elder Scrolls and Fallout, and they put them both online. That's not to say that they're not doing single player. Obviously at E3 this year they announced Starfield, which will be single player, and of course Elder Scrolls 6. And we can go ahead and assume that after Elder Scrolls 6, they'll probably go back to the well with Fallout 5. So it's not like this is the end of the Fallout franchise, which, believe it or not, you will see on a lot more places than you would think that this is the end. But this is just a side game for Fallout. And trust me, if you think this is the worst Fallout game, you've clearly never played Brotherhood of Steel. Honestly, I feel like they would have gotten a lot less confusion out of people if instead of naming the game Fallout 76, they would have just named it Fallout Online. I feel like that would have been a lot more honest, and it would have left a lot less people confused. Now, granted, there would have been a lot less hype for the game going into E3, I'll admit. However, I feel like that would have been a lot more honest right at the off and would have let people know exactly what to expect, because despite all the talk, despite all the back and forth, that's what the game looks like as of right now. But see, here's the thing. When the beta comes out, we may see massive changes to the formula. We may see massive changes to how it's going to handle it, and we've already had confirmation that there will be private servers. So while it will be always online, if you make a server and you're the only person in it, well, congratulations. You now have a single-player game. And given how early it takes place in the Fallout timeline, honestly, they could have done anything with this game, and it would have technically worked. So having a server with only one player would be just as easy to explain as having a server with, I believe, 26 is the maximum. And that's something else I want to get into, is that's the server size. You're looking at a game that's 4 times the size of Fallout 4, but there's only 26 people in it. So there's not going to be massive raiding parties unless literally an entire server is out to kill you. That at least alleviates some of my concerns. Now, getting into the comparisons, we've heard a lot of people try to compare this to Rust. A lot of people have been comparing this to Destiny. We've had a few people who have compared this to the earlier Fallouts. And honestly, like I was saying before, we don't know yet. We haven't seen enough, we don't know enough to make any sort of concrete assumptions one way or the other. Now, honestly, I was not a huge fan of Destiny, and I actively hate Rust. So if it's anything like those two games, I'm not going to like it. However, as of right now, we still don't know what it is. So it goes back to my first point about not jumping on to one side or the other. Let's just all be cautious at the moment, either optimistic or pessimistic, that's your business, but let's just try to keep everything in perspective and not blindly attack each other for liking or disliking this game. I'm honestly not sure what to think at this point with Fallout 76. Because there's a part of me that really feels like it could be a really fun experience, but at the same time wondering how long will that experience last. Example, I have put at least 1,000 hours between Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, and Fallout 4. Well, I put that same amount of effort into Fallout 76. I feel like it's really going to depend on how many friends you have ready to play the game and how long they stay on it. For example, when Mass Effect Andromeda first came out, me and the other enthusiasts, we all picked up the game. This was going to be great. But after about 2 or 3 weekends, We just didn't care anymore. The game did not hold our interest. And I'm worried that that might be the same fate of Fallout 76. And hopefully Bethesda will once again prove me wrong. Whether they do or they don't, I will be sure to comment on that later. But for right now, thank you very much for listening. I've been Vega Goose, your host, and I will see you next time.